Welcome back. In 2020, an estimated 1.4 million men were diagnosed with prostate cancer. It's the second most common cancer in men worldwide. Joining me today, Dr. Neil Shore, U.S. Chief Medical Officer of Urology and Surgical Oncology at Genesis Care USA. He treats those with advanced prostate cancer on a day-to-day basis, and he joins me today to talk about metastatic hormone-sensitive prostate cancer. It's also called MHSPC, and a new indication for an androgen receptor inhibitor to treat it that was recently approved by the FDA. Welcome, Dr. Shore.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me. Tell me more about MHSPC and how many people are impacted by the disease in the United States.
Oh, thanks. So MHSPC, it's an acronym for metastatic, which means the disease has spread outside the primary organ. And in this case, we're talking about the prostate. And the HS is hormone sensitive, which means if we lower the male hormone testosterone, the cancer cells will stop replicating and go into a period of remission. It doesn't necessarily mean it's cured, but it puts it into a state of remission. So over the years, for decades, the only treatment we were able to use successfully for our patients with MHSPC was just a hormone suppression, or what we oftentimes call androgen deprivation therapy, ADT, which means lowering testosterone. But over the last 5 years, we've had a half a dozen major global studies which have demonstrated the benefit of combination therapies, adding an oral androgen receptor blocker therapy to the hormone suppression, and now adding an oral androgen receptor blocker to the hormone suppression therapy. So that's super exciting. Unfortunately, and back to your question, it's the number one diagnosed cancer in men in the United States, and it's the second leading cause of cancer-related death for men in the United States.
Wow. So the male hormone has been suppressed. The testosterone has been suppressed.
That's right. We learned many, many years ago that prostate cancer cells are remarkably sensitive to circulating testosterone. And when we suppress that, lower it dramatically, the cancer cells go into remission.
I just find this so fascinating. When treatment options are being developed and tested, how do men respond to the treatments? And when and how is it determined that the treatment suppresses the cancer to keep it at bay?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's been an enormous collective effort of brilliant preclinical work, meaning work in animal models and researchers, and most importantly, patients and their families. They're the real heroes who've participated in studies and trials which led to these breakthroughs. The androgen receptor is a receptor that's been the most widely studied on prostate cancer cells. And we found that if you can effectively block it, and there's several different ways with at least 4 different oral therapies that can block the androgen receptor, that in combination with lowering testosterone has demonstrated remarkable benefits for our patients with MHSPC. And so is chemotherapy. Sometimes people hear that word, they get very frightened by it. They get frightened by just hearing the word cancer. But for your listening audience, the fact that for our patients now with MHSPC, that the FDA just recently approved the benefits of combining 3 therapies versus going against the 2 therapy approach is a really nice addition to our armamentarium to offer patients. And the goals are really to help patients live as long as possible and have them live well.
So, what's the name of the androgen receptor inhibitor recently approved by the FDA? And what could this approval mean for people living with advanced stage prostate cancer?
Yeah, thanks. So Nubeqa, also known as darolutamide, was already approved in 2019 in a more advanced stage of the disease called castration-resistant non-metastatic. It got a second approval recently by the FDA for the MHSPC population that we're talking about. I was very honored that I've been involved in the clinical trials, early phase trials for Nubeqa, And then most recently also in this phase 3 Arisons trial. I've been involved in numerous other studies, and I will say that this is just should inform your audience that there's an opportunity here for great optimism, that patients can live years now with MHSPC. So that's really one of the important take-home messages.
This is great news for men with metastatic hormone-sensitive prostate cancer. Where can we go for more information, doctor?
Yeah, thanks. It's important. There's a lot of great websites. I mean, for the Arisons trial and this triplet therapy and the role for Nubeqa, I would just go to Nubeqa, nubeqa.com. We have other really wonderful websites, education specifically for patients, and that you can go to the websites that are offered by the American Urologic Association, the American Society of Clinical Oncology, the National Comprehensive Cancer Network, Prostate Cancer Foundation. So these are all great organizations that offer fair and balanced information.
Dr. Shore, I want to thank you so much for joining me. And if you've been diagnosed, check with your doctor and don't forget to get that second, third opinion if you need it. Dr. Shore, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you.